Everybody, my name is Damon Knight. Welcome to my channel. We are going to be kicking off a brand new series. This is the first installment, and this is a complete noob's guide to astrophotography. Basically, if you want to get into the hobby, it's really easy to get overwhelmed. There's a whole lot of information and equipment, and a lot of things might not be obvious, especially if you're just getting started. It's easy to get lost and confused. I've seen a lot of folks get overwhelmed, so I am here to try to really simplify everything for you, and hopefully make things understandable and get you off on the right foot uh, as you enter the hobby. We're going to get obviously into more complicated things as we go, but again, we're going to start off really simple, probably oversimplified in a lot of cases. That is kind of the point. So we're going to start off with, honestly, probably the most important and very first question that you need to answer if you want to get into astrophotography. And that is, what kind of things are you looking to take pictures of? And that might seem like an odd question, right? The most frequent answer that I've seen is, oh, I want to take pictures of the moon and maybe some planets and maybe some galaxies, well, maybe they'll throw the sun in the mix. And I understand, right? You tend to think of taking pictures. There's a telescope involved. It's basically all the same, right? But as it turns out, that is not the case. And while there are some ways to kind of have it all and be able to do it all, those approaches are really limiting in the long run if you're going to stay in the hobby. And we'll come back and talk a little bit more about that later. First, I just kind of want to explain why this is such an important question to answer, and hopefully just kind of go over some of the differences between the types of targets. So, obviously, right, the sun, it's easy. It's big, it's bright, you can see it with no problem with the naked eye. But it actually requires somewhat different equipment from basically everything else, in that you need special solar filters to keep it from melting your equipment. Solar is kind of its own whole beast. We're not going to worry too much about that, but big, bright, you need a decent sized telescope and kind of whatever kind of camera, and the filter is really the key there. If you want to take pictures of the moon, again, this is a big, bright object in the sky. You don't need a super powerful telescope. Honestly, you can get away with just a camera lens most of the time, and whatever camera you've got is probably going to be adequate. Those are easy. What gets tricky is when you start going into planets and galaxies and nebula. So, planets, if you just go outside at night, nice dark night, you look up, you probably can see a couple of planets, depending on the time of year and all that. You probably don't realize it, but it's true, and it's because to the naked eye they basically just look like especially bright stars in your night sky. It's funny to think about planets being small, but in terms of things in space, they're relatively small and they're pretty far away. So to us, they look really tiny. But, the light of the sun is reflecting on them, so they are quite bright. And so you need a really powerful telescope generally to get good pictures. But on the plus side, you're not going to have to worry about long integration times or things like that, and don't worry about what that means. But basically, right, you're just taking like lots of quick pictures with planetary. So that's a very specific, again, set of equipment that you're going to need. You don't necessarily need anything fancy, right? Planetary is great for a lot of folks because you can actually get in with some of the cheaper telescopes that are out there. It's a relatively easy way for a lot of folks to start. But then if you go into like nebula and galaxies, it can get really different. This is going to be a little bit counterintuitive, I think. So galaxies and nebula are huge, really, really huge, right? If you think about it, yeah, how big is the Milky Way galaxy? Mind-blowingly big. So even though these things are really far away from us, they can, in our night sky, be quite large in the terms of the amount of the sky they take up. But they're really, really dim because they're so incredibly far away. So if you look up the night sky with your naked eye, you're probably not going to see any of them. You might be able to see Andromeda under some circumstances, but probably not. So you might just be able to get away potentially with your regular camera lens if you want to get the really, really big stuff. If you want to get further away stuff, then you might need a more powerful telescope. But like the specific requirements of what kind of telescope are going to be really, really different. It is very rare. It's not never, but most good telescopes for planetary are not good for galaxies and nebula and vice versa. So it's really, really important to kind of figure out ahead of time what it is you want to be taking pictures of so that you can buy the right equipment for you that's going to give you hopefully the most longevity and the best value for money. Now, I did mention at the start that there are some kind of all-in-one solutions, and I don't want to give anyone the wrong impression. These are fine. A company called CWO makes a product, the C-Star S50. If you're really unsure about the hobby and you are willing to buy something that is maybe not so upgradable later, but can kind of do all the things, it's a great option. It can take pictures of the moon, it can take pictures of the sun, it can take pictures of the larger planets, and some of the bigger nebula and galaxies it can do a great job with. But those all-in-one solutions, again, you're not going to be able to upgrade them later. So if you want to be able to take pictures of more distant galaxies later, you're out of luck. You're going to have to start all over. Now, again, the fact that that exists does mean you could still build your own, and that's fine and well and good, no problem there, but you still have to kind of watch out for some of the hardware specifics. The goal is to have as much of your equipment be reusable and last you a really, really long time as possible. And so kind of going for that, I want to be able to do all of the things approach is probably not best. So, you might be wondering, well, okay, Damon, how do I pick, right? How do I know which one of these I want to do? And honestly, that's really, really hard to say. It just depends on your personal wants, needs, and goals in the hobby. For me, I like doing what's called deep space astrophotography. I like taking pictures of galaxies and nebula. I would love to spend some time on planetary and the sun and the moon at some point, but there's doing deep space objects has a huge variety of types of things I can take pictures of and different objects throughout the sky, and I find that the variety I find really fun. If you're doing pictures of the sun, that's awesome. I love pictures of the sun, but you're just taking pictures of the sun, the one object. Same with the moon. And if you're doing planetary, you're probably, not even probably, you're limited to what's in our solar system. You're probably not going to find exoplanets or anything like that. So again, it just kind of comes down to what matters to you, what you want to take pictures of, what you think you're going to enjoy. If you have friends in the hobby, ask to use their gear. Try it out sometime. There's observatories all over the place, and lots of them have events where you can come in and see equipment and touch equipment and things like that. Check those out, and I think you will be way better off than just kind of jumping in blindly. And yeah, so hopefully this kind of rambling, meandering discussion that we've had here has helped you understand why the what you want to take pictures of question is, to me, unquestionably the most important and very first question you need to ask yourself and you need to answer for yourself. Once you've figured out what you want to take pictures of, man, it's way easier from there to figure out what the right equipment is for you. And in fact, in the next video that I do, that is the topic we're going to talk about. I'm going to start going into some of the specifics, and again, we're going to stay high level, but we're going to start to go into some of the specifics and picking out the equipment for whatever type of astrophotography you've chosen to do. Hopefully you found this a useful, quick little primer on the topic, and thank you so much. If you have any questions, feel free to leave a comment down below, and otherwise, I will hopefully see you next video.